Welcome to this explainer, where we're going to dive right into the hidden origins of the language you use every single day. If you're a business manager, an executive, or a professional leading a team, you know you talk a lot about character and integrity. You use a very specific vocabulary in the boardroom to evaluate talent, describe a deal, or explain a business failure. We use this terminology to pinpoint who you truly are as a leader and the kind of corporate culture you're building. But have you ever stopped to wonder where those exact words actually come from? I want you to think about the true foundation of your everyday jargon. When you're sitting in a strategy meeting, evaluating a new hire, or managing a crisis, you instinctively reach for certain phrases to describe human nature. You rely on these concepts as a shorthand for truth, but where did they originate? The answer might actually surprise you.
Think about phrases like, there's a fly in the ointment with this contract, or we closed the deal at the 11th hour. How about, she always goes the extra mile? Our competitors are the blind leading the blind, or that budget cut is just a drop in the bucket. You use these phrases daily to navigate incredibly complex modern problems. But what's truly fascinating is that absolutely none of them were invented in a modern MBA program or some weekend corporate leadership seminar. The true source code for these idioms is ancient scripture, specifically the Bible. It turns out that the text you might think of merely as religious history is actually a time-tested manual on human nature, corporate integrity, and who you truly are as a leader. We are literally using ancient wisdom to describe our most cutting-edge business challenges. Section 1. Foundations of True Character. Building Unshakable Integrity. Think about when you call a highly reliable, incredibly honest employee the salt of the earth. You're actually citing the book of Matthew. In the ancient world, salt was a precious commodity used to preserve food and prevent decay. So by using this phrase to describe a professional, you're saying this person preserves moral goodness in your organization. They prevent the corporate culture from decaying. Without them, the team loses its core value and its fundamental character. And that brilliantly illustrates our next concept, the house built on sand. Look, when the market is booming, any business looks good, right? But what happens when pressure hits? A business strategy, a partnership, or a career that lacks a deep ethical foundation is exactly what Matthew chapter 7 describes as a house built on sand. It might look structurally sound on a spreadsheet, but the moment the market tests it, it completely collapses because the underlying integrity just isn't there. Now, let's contrast two powerful proverbs. On one hand, we have iron sharpens iron, which is really the ultimate ancient mandate for mutual accountability. You want a team that relentlessly challenges and refines each other's character. On the other hand, a good name is better than riches. Reputation and ethical standing hold way more value than quick material wealth or inflated quarterly profits. This is a perfect blueprint for modern corporate governance, and it was laid out thousands of years ago. Section 2. Spotting flaws and deception, evaluating personnel and deals. So the crucial point here is evaluating true character. The wolf in sheep's clothing is the ultimate warning against the deceptive charm of a bad hire or a toxic partner. Back in agricultural Judea, sheep were innocent and vulnerable, wolves were their predators. In the boardroom, this translates directly to the charismatic vendor or the overly slick executive who puts on a facade of righteousness just to gain access to your company's resources, only to exploit them from within. Or consider the phrase, having feet of clay. This actually comes from King Nebuchadnezzar's dream in the book of Daniel. He dreamt of this massive, intimidating golden statue that looked completely invincible from the top down, but its base was made of a fragile mixture of iron and baked clay. This is the perfect metaphor for an incredibly powerful CEO or a dominant market leader harboring a hidden fundamental weakness in their integrity. It's a flaw that will eventually bring the whole enterprise crashing down. Similarly, when you're vetting a big deal, you're always looking for the fly in the ointment. This is drawn straight from Ecclesiastes, where the metaphor describes how just a few tiny dead flies can ruin a jar of very expensive perfume. Note how perfectly this relates to your work. It's that tiny, overlooked compliance risk, or that small bit of ethical foolishness that can completely spoil an otherwise perfect multi-million-dollar merger. Section 3. Actions and their aftermath. Accountability and justice. Reap what you sow, from Galatians, is perhaps the absolute, inescapable principle of corporate accountability. It is moral cause and effect summarized perfectly. You cannot plant a culture of cutthroat dishonesty and expect to harvest long-term loyalty. It just doesn't work.
What you put into your business is exactly what you will get out of it. Let's trace exactly how this happens, step by step, entirely through biblical idioms. On day 1, a leader makes a small ethical compromise. They sow the wind, as Hosea puts it. Fast forward to month 6, and they've gotten away with it, leading to a deep arrogance, or pride goes before a fall from Proverbs. By year 1, the snowball effect has taken hold, and the imminent disaster becomes clear to everyone looking at the metrics. The writing is on the wall, directly from King Belshazzar's feast in Daniel. And finally, by year 2, the small wind they sowed has compounded into a massive, unstoppable corporate failure. They reap the whirlwind. These stark warnings highlight the inevitable negative consequences of unethical business practices. The wages of sin is death from Romans tells us that wrong actions have a definitive, destructive payout that simply cannot be avoided. And Isaiah's warning that there is no peace for the wicked speaks directly to that profound lack of stability you feel when you're running a business on a foundation of lies. You will never find true rest or satisfaction without true character. Section 4. Read the original source, uncovering the full stories. We use these phrases as shorthand every single day, but we often miss the profound depth behind them. Think about the narrative phrases you probably throw around regularly. Finding a scapegoat, washing your hands of a situation. That department is a law unto themselves. They all carry deep, fascinating stories. The scapegoat comes from a literal ritual in Leviticus of placing blame on an animal. Washing your hands of something is Pilate trying to symbolically transfer guilt. The Good Samaritan is a radical redefinition of who our neighbor is, breaking down huge social barriers. These aren't just idioms, they are narratives of moral challenge, human struggle, and divine compassion that literally shaped our modern business ethics. So, I want to leave you with a rather provocative thought. Are you leading without the complete manual? Think about it. You trust this terminology implicitly. You use it to hire, to fire, to inspire, and to strategize. But if you rely so heavily on this vocabulary to evaluate talent and risk, shouldn't you read the foundational text it originally came from? My challenge to you today is to go straight to the source. Open the Bible and read these stories for yourself. Don't just settle for the corporate catchphrases. Dive into the actual narratives that define the structural integrity of who you truly are and how you lead. Discover the ultimate insights on management, character, and life directly from the text that built our language. Read it for the details, and you might just find exactly the wisdom you need for your next big decision. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.